welcome again to Minister Norma Foley and to commend both the Minister and her team in the Department of Education and Skills in developing a detailed roadmap on how to manage the reopening of our schools this September. In terms of my own background, I'm an arts graduate in French and History, and I had the opportunity after my degree to teach French for a period in secondary schools. And I have many friends working as teachers and principals in the primary and secondary school sector. Prior to my role here, I've also been on the school boards of management of the Roscommon Community College and St Killian's New Inn. This is a significant investment by our government of £375 million, is testament to the commitment of our parties to ensuring a safe teaching environment for our teachers and students this September. Ireland now has a clear plan with this document reopening our schools, the roadmap for the full return to school for over 1 million students, 4,000 schools and 100,000 staff. These far-reaching measures give reassurance to parents and students about the safety and importance of education as a fundamental right, as classes start again in our schools at the end of August. And I'm also pleased to see that there was significant input from many stakeholders, including teaching unions, associations, school leaders and staff. The commitments that are being given, over £53 million for 1,080 secondary school posts, and already an initial allocation of 600. And also, I was able to hear you this morning as well, Minister Foley, on Radio 1, and it was very good to hear as well about the potentials for job sharing and how that teachers will be able to increase that as well. I suppose it also includes 120 counselling posts, and really innovative measure to help students' well-being in these new ways of teaching, and it's already been praised internationally, which is great to see. 40 million has been allocated for primary school substitution as teachers cannot attend school if displaying any symptoms, and I'm pleased to see there's over 60 supply panels across the country and one in each county. Over 75 million has been dedicated to infrastructure within the schools, 11 million for school buses to help with distancing and where I know face masks and wearing of that will be necessary. Over 84 million for replacement teaching staff. I'm very, very pleased to see the particular supports for special needs students, and I welcome the statement from Minister Josepha Madigan on special needs and inclusion about how every school will have access to SNAs. And that also includes extra access to the National Education Psychological Service, NEPS, where over 17 extra will be provided to support the well-being for those coping with complex special needs, disadvantage or marginalisation, particularly in this time of stress and anxiety with COVID. Primary schools have access to the minor works grants to reconfigure spaces. And again, I see that this is a doubling of the current minor works scheme. So, for example, a school with 100 students would receive roughly 14,000, and the commitment, I believe, is there until mid-August to support this reopening. This is a large undertaking in terms of planning the immediate infrastructure and recruiting resource needs. All hands on board are necessary to ensure our schools are ready in the next few weeks, and this will be an added pressure for principals and teachers at our schools. We need to ensure, which I know is what you're committed to doing, that we will return to a safe working environment. I also listened to the SDI President, Deirdre MacDonald, this morning on Radio 1, and she highlighted the input by unions and associations into this roadmap, and it shows the strength of this plan by involving all stakeholders. Teachers are welcoming that the curricular reform is paused, but there is concern over the time frame. And I've also had the opportunity to speak to some teaching staff myself, for example in Scullin, Creanefa and Ballinasloe. It's the only DEIS Band 1 school in County Galway. The feedback they were giving to me is that in particular for these DEIS schools, where we're dealing probably with more disadvantage and perhaps dealing with more complex special needs, that they're going to have to rearrange, for example, their breakfast clubs and their homework clubs. So I'd be very interested to know, I suppose, how are we going to help accommodate those types of schools. That particular school, Scullin Creanefa, has been waiting over 20 years for a new school building. I'm working with them currently. They're in the middle of planning with Galway County Council, but they're looking at classroom sizes that are 45 metres squared. In the standard configurations that were provided, I think it was 80 metres squared, I think was what was given. So I'm very curious about just how we will manage when the classroom sizes are so much smaller. Also, I suppose, in relation to the speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, where with these schools, these particular professionals go from one school to another. So how will we ensure that they will have access to these professionals, but in a safe way, which is needed for their development? I suppose also when you're dealing with children with special needs, there would be an opportunity for them to mix with mainstream classes. And this is, again, one of the objectives, is the integration into mainstream of children with special needs. How will we do this? I suppose that if we could have some detail on that, or if it was possible to provide at a later stage. These are challenges, and I suppose I would ask the Minister to consider these. Some of their points just in relation to it would be just in implementing this roadmap. As I mentioned, principals, teachers and administrators will need speedy access to the funds required within the Department of Education to really get that funding across by mid-August, and also to recruit teaching staff. What extra supports have been put in place in the Department of Education and Skills to help principals and teachers get their classrooms reconfigured and resources recruited? It is a massive, massive administrative project. Secondly, teacher substitution between schools. Very excellent initiative to have over 60 supply panels, and I know that there have been extra teachers immediately allocated to those panels. But I suppose, how is this going to be safely managed? And I believe you might have reference to that in this morning as well on the radio. Finally, currently face masks are not required as per public health guidance, and each school has its own COVID-19 response plan. What type of regular reviews have been set up to look at cases between the primary and secondary schools and public health guidance with the Health Protection Surveillance Centre? Is it necessary to consider a testing protocol in relation to this if cases are identified? In conclusion, I very much welcome this large investment to ensure that schools will open safely at the end of August and the start of September. I want to thank all in the education sector, principals, teachers, administrative executives, who will be working at full tilt in the next few weeks. It's even started this morning. I rang and they were talking to all the people that they were going to get set up, with the people in the schools. So it's really kicking off, literally from this morning. But how do we ensure that we're going to support them to have 4,000 schools ready to welcome students at the end of August? It's no mean feat. Students will get to meet up with school friends. They're going to continue on their exciting path of discovery through education, and as parents have let me know, they have a whole new appreciation for the role of teachers. But it has been a difficult and stressful time over the last number of months for parents, for children, for ourselves. We've all been affected in how we manage and how we behave in these last few months with COVID. I would ask my colleagues that it is very important that we as public representatives, even in our debates, that we instil confidence, hope and a sense of calm in our children going back to school. It is really important that sense of well-being that you have very well demonstrated in the report and the strategy that you've brought to us today, that we are each responsible in how we ensure that in terms of our debate that we're ensuring that our children are hopeful and confident going back to school, and that it is an enjoyable experience. I want to thank you very much, Minister, and I look forward to working with you closely as well as a spokesperson over education. Thank you very much.